Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to this community showdown. It's going to be the Tomb Kings led by Menacing Platypus facing off against the Chaos Dwarfs, who are going to be helmed by Alls. And it looks like it is going to be Bone Giants facing off against the Deathstreak Rockets. Should be quite a bit of fun. Now for the Bone Daddy build here on the side of Platypus, it is going to be Skeleton Spears for the main core, with some basic skeletons up on the high ground. So mostly going for a chaff-centric army, which, makes sense. Usually Chaos Dwarves aren't really going to be bringing much in the way of good quality infantry, even though they can. Most of the Chaos Dwarf armies I've seen do rely more heavily on like laborer tier units, and skeletons are more than ready to kind of, stand and go fisticuffs with them. So Skeleton Warriors, and we do have the Bone Giant. Now Bone Giants, this is actually one of the few matchups in which Bone Giants, I would say, are pretty darn good. Magma Cannons are obviously very excellent at killing Tomb King's infantry and cavalry. Bone Giants counter Magma Cannons, especially with the range reduction, because now that Magmas are sitting at 380 range instead of 450, the Bone Giants can really close the distance a lot quicker. And on top of that, they're very good against Deathstreaks if they can get in range, and pretty decent against many of the Chaos Dwarfs monsters, right? So the Baletor's characters, different things like that, if they can make contact. And Bone Giants, if I'm not mistaken, did get buffed in the last patch to get a little bit more accuracy. It could have been a different patch before that, but I'm pretty sure there was something recently for that. Eyes of the Desert, Ushabti Great Bows over here on the other side. We have Grand Hierophant Khatep. He's very good if you're going to be spamming a wide army of mostly cheap skeletons, because he heals your entire army with the Restless Dead trait. Screaming Beam Catapult, Screaming Beam Catapult, man, that's a bit of a tongue twister. But this is pretty good on this map. A lot of times you can basically hide your artillery in a weird kind of concave position behind this terrain, and you can shoot up this way, and your opponent's direct fire artillery isn't really going to be able to return the favor. But we'll see. Deathstreak Rockets might be able to kind of snipe it out. A couple Skeleton Spears, and that is it. For the forces of the Chaos Dowie, loving the build already. We do have your boy Zaytan, and that's why I like it. He's a very unusual pick. You don't see him too often, but he does have a net, which is quite good. So he's got the Sadistic Snare, pretty good combat stats on his Taurus, and he is going to be accompanied by Demon Smith, who is going to be coming into Flames of Asgore, which, despite the fact that CA did nerf its ability to do damage against single entities, it still does pretty good damage against monstrous units in my testing. So we'll see how it performs against some of the Eyes of the Desert, Ushabti Great Bows, those type of units. Double Deathstreaks, and the low ground actually is going to be Chaos Dwarf Warriors. So some decent infantry quality, and Chaos Dwarf Warriors will certainly outtrade, Nehekar Warriors, Skeletons, things like that. They can hold their own, but are very vulnerable to being focus fired by Screaming Beam Catapults and some of the other Tomb King's monsters. So Eyes of the Desert going to be circling about, eyeing the Flying Beast. Zaytan is dodging those giant shafts, not wanting to take any of those to the face, as the Eyes of the Desert going to be pushing him back, and he is going to be retreating. But what's probably going to happen is, oh yeah, how did I not see that? So obviously Zaytan is going to be netting targets down, and then the Flames of Asgore is going to be karate chopping them. Okay, it all makes sense now. Now I see the grand conspiracy behind this Chaos Dwarf build. Labor is coming in, so the Chaos Dwarf sending in the dreaded Labor Force, and these guys are going to be grabbing the home objective, so going to be grabbing objective number 2 before heading over to objective number 1 to maybe put a little bit of pressure on in tandem with some of the monsters, but we'll have to see. So the net's going to be going down here in a second, I would wager. Although, no, it looks like he pulls back. The net is very short range, so if you guys have ever used them, his net is like, you have to be right on top of them. The range is only 20 meters, so he literally has to throw it from his mountain. It's a very, very close range. Chaos Dwarves with a very strong stranglehold on this bottom objective, and yeah, they got a lot of Chaos Dwarf Warriors here. And what are the Deathstreak Rockets going to be blasting? It looks like right out of the gates they're going to be going after the Bone Daddy? No, they're actually going after the Skeletons, which I do think is a mistake. I mean, I know it did a lot of damage right there and certainly looks quite flashy, but I think you need to be using the Deathstreak rocket launchers to snipe out the Bone Giants. Otherwise, the Bone Giants are going to get in range and kill your rockets. And you can already see one rocket here is taking some damage from, I believe, what did damage to that? Yeah, it must have been the Bone Giant. It got in range and did one shot. I'm not sure. But yeah, the rockets have now switched on to the Boner Giant, which is going to be strong. They could pull back here, but oh, it looks like another giant shaft. There's a second one. Okay, I did miss him. So the dreaded double Bone Giant build. I love it. He's able to draw a line of sight, and look at that. The Bone Giant's putting some big damage into the Deathstreak Rocket on the low ground, and Zaytan and company. And now they're probably going to be going for their Alpha Strike as the Laborers do engage the Skeleton lines. And the Granite Guard are called up, but oh my god, look at the damage from the Eyes of the Desert. Brutal stuff as you see the Demon Smith Sorcerer get absolutely pounded. But here comes the Flames of Asgore and the Sadistic Snare, which actually I do like that combo. I think that's very creative by Alls here. And Flames of Asgore will do good damage. You can see it's able to pop those units, bring him down to, wow, about 40%. So certainly returns the favor. However, at the end of the day, I do still think that Platypus maybe came out a little bit ahead in regards to that trade, because the Demon Smith Sorcerer is your magic user. It's a big, expensive monster. It's a centerpiece, right? So Chaos Dwarf Warriors hustling up and being blasted by some of the Screaming Beam Catapults. Meanwhile, the Deathstreak Rocket Launcher is being countered by the dreaded Boner Giants. and one of the Bone Giants is down to, what, about 70%, the other one's full health. So yeah, the artillery trade has been massively in the favor of the Tomb Kings here, as the Demonsmith Sorcerer probably going to be running back and maybe using his Reforge ability to heal up the Deathstreak Rocket. We'll have to see. But yeah, trying to dodge. He's trying to dodge with the 20-speed Deathstreak. I mean, hey, I get it. Desperate times call for desperate measures. Up on the high ground, Chaos Dwarfs holding on to the capture point. There are going to be some sweet shotguns from the Granite Guard. I love these blunderbusters. I think Chaos Dwarf blunderbusters are so incredibly cool, and they're able to rip some big shots into these skeletons, and the shields, though, save them quite a bit. The shields, of course, are silver, so it's going to be mitigating 55% of the damage. Granted, the Granite Guard will be sundering their speed, and as they get closer, they're going to be taking more and more damage. Granite Guard should be able to get them close to crumbling by the time they get into melee. But Tomb Kings are putting some good pressure on. I do like this call-in from our Chaos Dwarf player. It is going to be the Skullcrackers. Skullcrackers were recently buffed, and honestly, what's really crazy about Skullcrackers is they do very good damage against big targets as well as small targets because of how high their melee attack is, which I think is a bit of an oversight. I always feel like units like this should be more specialists, like more in their lane. So how you fix that is you give them lower melee attack, but you increase their bonus versus infantry. Yeah, they do run some good interference here, and we do see the old Skeleton Warriors getting mowed down, and they are going to be crumbling pretty heavily. Skullcracker hanging out, most likely going to be rotating into the Skeleton Spears here, and there the Skeletons go. They are going to be crumbling, but Chaos Dwarves not going to have the best time at this objective simply because of the Chosen of the Gods back here. They're going to melt the Granite Guard. The Boner Giants, it looks like they're still chasing the artillery pieces, and man, those giant shafts are doing so much damage. And it looks like Zaytan the Black is also not in the best shape either, as he has been getting chased and screened here by the Eyes of the Desert. So the Giant Beast is going to be fleeing the scene. But, I do love seeing a Chaos Dwarf player try something a little bit different. Although the meta is a little bit up in the air right now. For the Chaos Dwarfs, I would say the new meta in terms of lord choices probably is going to be the Sorcerer Prophet, simply because of how good he is with the utility. He has good Lords of Magic, a good fighter, he self-heals, he has a good gooning item with the amulet. He's just much better than many of the other choices. Granted, I do think Zaytan has a place against like Bretonnia for like netting cavalry and things like that. But the old Demonsmith Sorcerer, he's in trouble. He's at -7 leadership. The Sneaky Snakes are chasing him off the battlefield, and he takes one giant bony shaft to the face and is going to be retreating off the battlefield right off the side here. So GG, good night, sweet prince. We'll see you on the other side. Bone Giants down here now going to be setting their sights onto Zaytan, who is going to be getting laser beamed. Chaos Dwarf Warriors, as expected, crushing these Skeleton Spears and basically taking no damage in the process, but the rest of the battle is looking pretty bad for the Chaos Dwarves. The high ground is looking to be heavily favoring the Tomb Kings, as we see chaff units just tying down Granite Guard. And though Granite Guard are pretty good in combat, they have 38 and 46 for combat stats, so it makes them a pretty good kind of hybrid fighting/shooting unit, but at the end of the day, they're not going to be a match for the Ushabti, who are going to be emerging from the depths, and certainly will be chopping these Chaos Dwarfs asunder. So there they go. Good night, sweet princes. Chaos Dwarfs do call in these Skullcrackers. Looks like we do have one Skullcracker here, and both of them doing a pretty good job at clearing things out. And even though they're very strong, and honestly, Skullcrackers, look at the amount of damage they actually did against the Ushabti on the charge. It's pretty nuts. Like some of the really degenerate Chaos Dwarf builds right now are focusing on multiple Skullcrackers and Iron Demons, and one of the issues is that Iron Demons and Skullcrackers, for some reason, Creative Assembly forgot to put them on the same single entity limitation that the unit caps have, so you can spam them and have more single entities in your army, and it can get pretty out of control for sure, in tandem with their overperformance against big targets. But it's kind of like how Grom the Paunch used to be at the end of Warhammer 2, how even though he's a chariot character, you would have Grom the Paunch going fisticuffs and just absolutely crushing, big monsters in combat because of his regeneration and his activated items. So he was really just pretty much had no weaknesses. He was very, very strong in most of his roles until he got corrected, which I don't really remember what they did to him, but even still, Skullcrackers, man, causing havoc. I don't know if it's going to be enough. They might be able to wrestle this objective back, but man, the value difference is huge. And Chaos Dwarfs don't have a ton of healing. Catapults blasting Bone Giants. The thing about Bone Giants is they're pretty haggard once they run out of ammo. They're like really mediocre giants, but even still, a Bone Giant is going to be able to do enough to tear rout off, Chaos Dwarf infantry and, put some hurt on them. As now we have Tomb Guard quality infantry coming in for the Tomb Kings. Tomb Guard will obviously just decisively defeat these labor units. And the Chaos Dwarfs have a decent little pocket of troopers here, but still getting hit by those armor-piercing catapults isn't going to feel good. And the big Bone Daddy most likely will move up relatively soon and start to put good pressure on them. And you'll notice the Chaos Dwarves are missing pretty much all their stopping power, right? They have 2 Skullcrackers, but, the factions that really struggle against the Skullcrackers and Iron Demons are going to be factions that don't really have good shooting, but Tomb Kings are an excellent shooting faction between the Bone Giants, Sepulchral Stalkers, Ushabti Great Bows. They have a ton of great answers against Skullcrackers, which, they're not really going to hurt too bad. Tomb Kings actually are also one of the few factions that I've seen do reasonably well against the new Bretonnia by spamming out Tomb Guard Halberds, Sepulchral Stalkers, and then bringing in some Ushabti to shoot down the cavalry and, Foot Squires and whatnot. Tomb Kings I definitely think are a top tier faction. It's pretty cool. They've kind of come full circle. They went from being just egregiously OP to getting nerfed and people having to rediscover how to play them. And now they're like a upper tier faction for sure. Like closer to the top echelon of factions. Top tier, I should say. But, you know, they don't feel bad to play against like they once did. Petra's Incantation of Righteous Smite and giving missile damage to these. That's really cool. 186 strength. And they also happen to be anti-large halberds, and they are going to be getting the Jeff's Cursed Blades here. Jeff's Cursed Blades, going to be a nice anti-large and armor-piercing buff, as that Sepulchral Stalker is going to be sent back to the Shadow Realm, and the other Skullcracker here is being taken down. Tomb Guard halberds grinding against Infernal Guard. Infernal Guard are a pretty badass unit for sure. These guys certainly know how to brawl, but Tomb Guard halberds do have good armor piercing, and I don't think they're going to be able to get their value back once we do see these sneaky snakes move in. Low ground objective is owned by the Chaos Dwarfs. Looking at the current score, we do see the Tomb Kings are up a little bit in terms of the score. Chaos Dwarves actually fighting incredibly well. Despite the fact that the value difference is almost doubled, I'm really impressed with how well the Chaos Dwarves are fighting, which is just a testament to, you know, if their lords hadn't gotten sniped and could have had a little bit better engagements, maybe, but it seemed like Platypus was pretty ready to deal with single entity spam, having the Eyes of the Desert, like 2 of those, and Bone Giants, which are really good at, you know, spamming or sniping those type of characters. Very, very tough for the Chaos Dwarves, right? And pretty much the entire Chaos Dwarf build, right? It was the 2 big monsters, 2 big artillery pieces were countered like by 2 Bone Giants alone, and the Sepulchral Stalker. So a lot of this was just really, really good building by the Platypus here. So back objective, Chaos Dwarfs own it, but for how much longer, we'll have to see. We do see this, I was about to say the Nutcrackers coming out, but the Skullcrackers are coming, and Tomb Kings, it's only a matter of time here before they get this one back. Skeleton Spears up at the point, more Skeleton Warriors and Nehekar Warriors as well, which should be able to attrition down this point. Granted, we do have some Infernal Guard coming in. Could the Chaos Dwarfs pull something out here? I don't know. They do have the 2 points, and they are kind of catching up a little bit. The Skullcrackers causing some havoc, but probably going to see one of them get blasted down by the laser snakes. Bone Giant getting a nice direct hit there on that Skullcrackers. The other one is going to be surrounded by Nehekar Horsemen. You can see Skullcrackers doing pretty good damage against these type of units. Yeah, that's actually pretty good. Not bad at all. But that is 400 weapon strength. Whereas like Pump Wagons had very low weapon strength, but I think one of the issues with the Pump Wagons is the fact that they have a bugged attack profile where they attack like several times for each attack they're supposed to have, like 3 times. I can't remember quite what it is. Whereas I think Skullcrackers, more of their thing is that they have super high weapon strength and really high melee attack. So they just kind of make them a good generalist unit. But yeah, this one's going to be going down here, not before it gets some good value, and racking up 337 kills. Pretty insane. Only 800 value, though. A lot of those kills are against Chaff units, but even if they were like elite quality units, like let's say like Chaos Warriors, it would have a similar amount of kills. Armor piercing and bonus for infantry is no joke. So 641 and more Bone Daddies on their way in. We got Skeleton Warriors, another catapult as well. So the Screaming Beam catapult's going to be moving up. Tomb Kings do get their clutches on this objective. It's going to be flipping in just a second, which is going to be giving the Tomb Kings a double cap here. So it's only a moment before this one flips. 3, 2, and 1. Tomb Guard Infantry, not bad. Tomb Guard do have better stats than Chaos Dwarf Warriors, I think, or pretty close, actually. I don't know who would win in a vacuum. 100 models versus 120. They both lack armor piercing. Tomb Guard seem to have slightly weaker stats, but Tomb Guard have higher weapon strength by almost 10. So yeah, I think in a sustained grind, a full health unit of Tomb Guard would be able to defeat a full health unit of Chaos Dwarf Warriors. The armor on Chaos Dwarf Warriors isn't that much at 85, and the damage difference in tandem with the extra 20 models on Tomb Guard, I think would probably give them the edge if you're looking in that fight at a bit of a microcosm. This is a nice play by Platy as well, showing some good old domination veterancy as he does move in with Nehekar Horseman and Carrion, knowing he has a bit of an advantage. He's going to be stuffing his opponent back here, shutting down the Death Shriek and the Granite Guard in one fell swoop, which is probably going to spell GG for the forces of Chaos Dwarves. I wouldn't be surprised to see them tap out. Obviously, you don't know the outcome of this game. I haven't watched the replay all the way through. Sometimes, if I see high-level players are in a game and it's from one of my tournaments, I'll just cast it without even looking. And, you know it's going to be something good. So Tomb Guard Halberds doing great, man. Nice buff on them, giving extra 25% armor-piercing damage, helping them out-trade the Blazing Beards of Basharik. Kotsep also around, providing his healing with all the spells that he does cast. And that is going to be a triple cap, and I think it's safe to say we fast forward here. Yeah, you see, they were thinking the same thing. They knew the game was over. And, man, I love seeing the Bone Giant tech. So if you guys are struggling against Chaos Dwarfs, as Tomb Kings, give them an old Bone Giant tech. Give them a little bit of bone love. Could work out for you. Now, at the build, I loved it. Platypus, obviously top tier player, very good at coming up with builds. The old RTK build pool is quite strong indeed. Bone Giant with 2,000 value right there. The other one sitting at 1,700. They both paid for themselves. Sepulchral Stalker, 1,600. Great Bows paid for themselves. 1,400, 1,700. Pretty much all the big value pieces that Platypus had in his tech to deal with SEs and artillery did great. For Chaos Dwarves, Death Shrieks, one of them did okay before getting shut down, but at the end of the day, they did not win the duel, and it was certainly very evident. And the two big characters also barely accrued 500-600 value apiece, So this was like the epicenter of the Chaos Dwarf build, like their main strategy, right? And it just simply did not work out. So yeah, great game. It was fun. Skullcrackers are probably some of the better elements. So yeah, I think in this matchup, how would I even go about this with Chaos Dwarves? If Bone Giants become meta against them to deal with artillery, I think what you probably do is you don't start with artillery in your main build. Probably just keep one magma cannon in really deep set reserve, and then come out with like a more aggressive build, like a pushing build, like mass Chaos Dwarf Warrior with maybe some Bull Centaur Renders pushing up, because Bull Centaur Renders with the great weapons will probably crush a lot of these like sepulchral stalkers and things like that. I did like the Flames of Asgore, so maybe you do a Sorcerer Prophet of Hashit with the Flames of Asgore. Granted, they might dodge that too easily, so maybe Burning Head is still the way. Just like focus on clearing out the chaff and then push back. I'm not sure. Got to go to the drawing board in that one. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. We'll see you on the other side, and well played to both Platypus as well as Alls. GG.